Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I have some Spitfire Mk IIb gameplay for you. So the Spitfire Mk IIb, it's got its fair good points and its fair kind of disabilities. One of the first major things I noticed about this plane is that it overheats very quickly, and you really want to keep an eye on that engine temperature. Second of all, the guns they're either amazing, as they are always with his panels, or they're just a little bit of potato. It's a little bit a love-hate relationship. They either one-shot enemies really easily, or you pump them full of rounds and they just keep flying. Most of the time they're pretty badly damaged, but they are still flying, so it is quite difficult sometimes to get the kill on them. Now, another thing that is kind of characteristic for most Spitfires in the game is that they can't dive at an excessively high speed. You will obviously don't catch up to a 109 that's diving or a Focke-Wulf that's diving. You will definitely catch up to Japanese planes if they are Zeros. Not too sure about the other land-based planes of the Japanese, but you don't really seem to fight them very often either way. So, our first target that we engaged a little bit ago was a 109F, and as I said, I put quite a substantial amount of 20 mils into him, and he was still flying. Now, I saw that this Mustang was fighting two guys all on his own, so I decided to go and help him out. Now, he's baiting the 109 up, whether that is part of his plan or completely accidental doesn't really matter, because we get the kill on him and save his ass, and then we turn our attention towards the ME410 and we pilot snipe him out of the plane. And this basically is a perfect example of the fact that the Spitfire guns are really quite unreliable. Sometimes, as you just saw, they one-shot a plane, and the other time they just don't really do very much at all. Now, at this part, I'm going to be putting a little jump cut because it is going to be taking quite a few minutes before anything interesting happens. So one thing I definitely do recommend you to do is, when you're playing this plane, is to use manual engine control. It's not going to help you very much, but it is going to prolong the amount of time that you're able to use WEP. So, another big flaw of this plane is when you're defensive flying. You, or at least I, use a lot of negative Gs to try and evade my opponent and try and get back on their 6 after they overshoot me. But with this plane, the engine being designed as it is, when you pull, well, even relatively minor negative Gs, you already start losing your engine because the engine is starved of fuel, and that can be a really big problem. Now, the P47 on R6, I make him overshoot, and there I use the negative G a little bit too much, and my engine starves of fuel. I try and get some shots on, but it's not really working out, and I put the nose down because I see another guy coming in. Now, he is currently being contested by my other friend. Now, the 109 is stalling out right in front of us. I do have guns on, however, I am pretty low on speed, and I kind of waste a fair amount of cannon rounds on that guy there, not getting any hits. Now, while that was happening, the P47 comes back in for another go. I keep the engine on WEP because he is really fast, and I really want to keep my energy up for when I try and get back on his 6, and there, again, I use not too many Gs, negative Gs, and the engine dies again. Now, I put some shots downrange on him, nothing connects, sadly, so we are now down to basically just 7.7s. We have some 20 mils left, but it's very unlikely that they're going to have a massive impact on the fight. Now, the 109 that was fighting us and the other Spitfire earlier was so critically damaged that he lost control of his plane, and he crashed. Sadly, no one got the kill for it. The Spitfire right in front of us is calling for help. I'm telling him in chat that he needs to turn away, but it is no real big deal because the P-47 gets scared away by the anti-air fire from our friendly ships. So, fighting a P-47 and a Spitfire Mk IIb won't happen very often because the P-47 is quite a bit higher in BR than you. But it still happens. And to be quite honest, there's not an awful lot you can do if the P-47 is a smart pilot and he knows what he's doing. As long as the P-47 keeps his speed and altitude up, you can basically not touch him unless you get a lucky shot when he's passing you, and apart from that, you basically can't do very much at all. And that is exactly what this guy is doing. He's putting the plane into a dive, getting more energy up, and I'm never going to catch him, especially not with my oil overheating pretty rapidly at this point. To be honest, that is kind of a very big annoyance in this plane. The engine overheats so quickly. Well, not necessarily so quickly, but it will be really hard to get enough power out of your engine to keep it going in an actual proper fight. So the P-47 comes back onto us. I do some evasive flying, trying to stay away from his guns as best as I can. I try and get guns on, but sadly no cigar there. I lose my engine again due to the fact that I pulled negative Gs. I again try and get guns on with my flaps deployed, but I can't get any hits in on him, sadly, so he gets away and we are now completely out of cannon ammunition. Now, I did quickly turn off the engine because I wanted to really quickly cool down my engine because it was really starting to die. Now, while I was looking up while my engine was out, I saw that the P-47 actually did either the same or has a very damaged engine as well. That's the only thing I can deduct from it, because it looked like, was turning it off as well, and that is his big mistake. We now very easily reverse him. His engine is out. I don't know what exactly happened to him. We get a nice shot into the fuel tank with the 7.7s and set him on fire. So right now I think secured kill. I'm going to go for the last guy. Now this guy only goes down after about a minute of the initial fire, so I'm going to put a jump cut here because it is a little bit before we get to the HS-129. So 2 minutes later, after being granted the kill on the P-47, we are now engaging the HS-129. Now, the only thing that the HS-129 can do really is get lucky in a head-on, or if I overshoot him, but I'm not even worried about that because it is a B3 and the 7.7s are going to do basically no damage unless they catch one of my fuel tanks on fire, and I find it very unlikely that the big 75 is going to hit. Now, there is one thing that I always hate about, in particular, Spitfires. Not necessarily other planes with wing-mounted guns, but Spitfire specifically is in these kind of situations. I find it very annoying and difficult to keep my guns on target because they go over, they go low, and it just doesn't work out for me most of the time. Although we have a bit of ammunition to play around with here, I'm not too worried about the fact that we won't be able to kill him. I'm just gonna stay on a 6 to try and kill him. Now I go into cockpit view and in the virtual cockpit because my screen is getting all oiled up by the oil that he's leaking and I can't see crap. So I go into cockpit view to try and actually be able to put shots on target accurately. I set him on fire. Now I'm going to put my last rounds into him to try and secure the kill, even though I'm pretty confident that he's going to go down. Now that is going to be it for today. As always, I do hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one.